What's up, everyone? My name is Cody Engel. I'm a staff software engineer, and welcome back to our Kotlin series for 2019. In this one, we are going to talk a little bit about visibility modifiers. So, last time we were creating our calculator, overriding it, creating a fairly bad calculator. But one thing that we haven't really talked about is how do you restrict access to your classes when you may not want, other things to make use of those values. So what do I mean by that? Well, right now we have all of these add options here. So if I go ahead, zoom in a little bit, if I go ahead and run this, and then you look over here at our calculator, it runs. The result is 255. But if we go here and then we just want to say calculator dot current value equals 0, run it, you'll see right here. So we get -1. I believe that is because our bad calculator will just always return the field -1. But let's say we just use, have random calculator. We'll do our better calculator, the one that works. Run that, and then we get a result of 0. So that's a problem. We don't want something that's using our calculator to be able to define like what its current value is. So how can we do that? Well, with Kotlin and other programming languages, you can use what are called visibility modifiers. So let's kind of walk through the different options that we have. So by default, this will default to being public. So anything that has access and can view an instance of calculator can also access these. That's also why we're able to call the add, subtract, multiply, divide functions. But we can go ahead and we can say this is private. It's going to yell at us because of the open modifier, because if something is private and open, there's really no point to it, because by making it private, we're saying that only these functions, only things within the class itself can access this current value field. So we can see right here everything's fine, but then over on this side, we see a bunch of red lines, bunch of problems. So you can see that the override now is saying we can't override it, partly because it's no longer open, partly because it's private. And then up here, though, we are getting what we want, though. We don't want to be able to access the current value in this way. We don't want to be able to set that value. But we do want, so say our bad calculator, we do want that to still be able to work. So another option that we have would be to make this internal. So what internal does is it will give you access, and we'll go ahead and add that open keyword back on, but what internal does is it gives the ability for everything within the module to view that. So where this is useful is when you want a class or a field within an entire module to be able to be used, but anything outside of that module wouldn't be able to use it. So essentially what this means is everything within this Kotlin package over here will be able to make use of internal. You usually don't use internal too much, to be honest, unless you're getting into some more advanced work. It also does not resolve our problem here, so we're not going to use the internal one. Instead, what we can do is if we make this protected, it gives access to the current value. This gives access to anything that is inheriting from our calculator class. So our better calculator can use it. We can override this. We're no longer able to set this here, but you will notice, it gives us this problem again. So we're almost there with what we want to do. But what we end up wanting to do is restrict the ability to set the field. And so if we go ahead and move this to here, and then we have our set, and we say protected there, we are defining that only classes that are inheriting from calculator or the calculator class itself can set the current value. But we're leaving the get alone, so the get function will be able to just be accessed publicly. And so what we get is our current value cannot be set to 0 because we don't have the ability to do that. We're restricting that access, but we can still call current value from here. So if we go ahead and run this, our calculator works as we would expect. So that is essentially what visibility modifiers are. An example just within Kotlin, but within other programming languages you get pretty much the same ones. So just kind of review though. Private, it means that it'll be visible to anything inside of the class itself. So only visible within our calculator class. Protected would mean that anything within the calculator class or a class that is inheriting from the calculator class will have access to that field. Internal, that will mean anything that is within the package itself will have access to that field or class. And then public means you have access to anything. So we were just talking about fields, but keep in mind this applies to anything. So if we wanted to make this class internal, we could do that. In our case, we're just going to leave it as being a public class in itself. So that's all we have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, click the notification bell. Otherwise, though, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.